Well, an Israeli former Prime Minister is now fielding the media frenzy surrounding the Harvey Weinstein sexual assault case. Ehud Barak's office has admitted to I-24 News that he did provide the contact details of the Israeli security company Black Cube to the Hollywood heavyweight, which Weinstein allegedly used to muzzle journalists trying to expose sexual assault allegations against him. Now, it comes off the back of a report in The New Yorker which claims Weinstein hired two security agency firms, one of which was Black Cube, to quiet those involved. Now, the organisation reportedly uses former Mossad agents as well as operatives from Israel's elite military and government intelligence units. I-24 News has reached out to Black Cube and it has declined to comment. Joining me in studio, I-24 News correspondent Jordana Miller. Jordana, first of all, talk us through briefly what these organisations were doing to the victims and the journalists trying to uncover these cases.
Right. Well, I actually had a chance to talk to someone who is very close to the investigative work that was done, so it comes from a good source. And they were basically able to confirm most of what was in that New Yorker piece. And these agents are basically, it reads like a spy novel. They are sending their employees as aliases and to impersonate, for example, a feminist. Someone was introduced to Rose McGowan, the actress, and she befriended Rose basically to try to extract information, find out about the allegations, and she even got part of the book that Rose is writing about these allegations
under the guise
of rape.
Of almost trying to help them with the case.
That's right. It's you know, it's good old spy work.
Right.
You know, someone through a connection, through another connection, comes into your life. You think they're a friend. You think they have a common interest. This woman, for example, said, "I run a nonprofit, and I'd like you to be at the gala event, and can you be a part of this?" And befriended her over a period of months until she was able to get this information, get it back to Weinstein. Now, Black Cube says they don't take cases that have to deal with sexual harassment, but in this case, they did.
It certainly seems like they did.
And it ended up, you know, winding back. This is one Israeli connection. The next one, of course, is to the former Prime Minister, Ehud Barak, who seems to have unwittingly given Weinstein this information, not knowing what was happening. He's now trying to distance himself. Let's take a listen to what he said in his statement.
More than a year ago, Mr. Barak was asked by Harvey Weinstein whether he is familiar with an Israeli security company which is capable of helping him with some business issues he is facing. Barak confirmed that the company that Weinstein has mentioned was probably Black Cube, and that is indeed working from Israel. Barak does not know the company or its managers personally, but he did provide Weinstein with its contact information. Until this morning, Barak was not aware that the company was hired by Weinstein. Neither did he know any of the purposes or activities it was hired for.
Well, he certainly is distancing himself there, but we've been looking at Hollywood and the rampant cases of sexual assault in that industry. How is that translating or appearing in Israel?
That's right. Well, it has really broken the dams around the world and in Israel as well. And we've seen the Me Too, the hashtag Me Too. We've been talking to some of the organizations here who take field calls for assault and harassment. They say they've seen a spike in the last few weeks. But we really don't know really what the situation is in terms of how often women are harassed in the workplace here in Israel. The stats are very scant. The government really needs to conduct another study. The last study was done in 2011. It only showed that 11% of women are assaulted. That's 1 in 10. A recent study in 2014 shows that the number's really almost 30%, 1 in 3. And 60% of people in that second study said they didn't even know who to talk to when it came to reporting these incidents in there, which tells us that there isn't really a culture inside corporations, both public and private, for women to go and feel safe and talk about these things. And even fewer went to the police, only 7%.
Wow. And there's now talk or fears that we could see a spike in these cases, or that it already exists in Israel's high-tech industry.
That's right. Now, high-tech is a very interesting industry because some people recently, a woman just recently wrote a report. She didn't come out with her identity. She's a 30-something. And she said, this is a male-dominated world. It is a world where you go on trips, business trips. It's a 24/7 startup culture, very male-dominated. And the lines between private and public are very blurred.
Right.
And women in this, they're 30% of the workforce in high-tech. And she said that she is constantly reminded that she's a woman. Whether she closes a deal or doesn't close a deal, it seems to come back to being a woman, with really verbal comments on her appearances or
anywhere where there's a significant power dynamic there. And just Giordano, briefly, we know both in the news cycle that these things spike and then they seem to disappear once again. Is there belief that these campaigns are actually making a difference?
Well, I think we've seen here an unprecedented campaign on social media. And I really don't think the story is over. Ronan Farrow, who broke this particular story at the New Yorker, this is now, I think, his third story. The New York Times is continuing to report. So we're going to see a lot more. That's going to keep it in the news.
All right, Giordano Miller, thank you so much for that insight.